I think ultimately it takes you back to basics. It takes you back down to a humble beginning, essentially. You've seen some of the most incredible things that you cannot fathom. You can watch National Geographic all day, every weekend, and you can get those insane David Attenborough moments of wildlife. But to be on the road, to be on the open road through Africa, it does change you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the African Overland Journal. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I have the amazing Tammy and Teresa. Teresa from Drifters and Tammy from our very own African Overland Tours. It's such a pleasure to have you guys with us. Thank you so much. How are you guys doing?
I'm very good this morning, Mishka. It seems like Teresa may be having a little bit of an issue again with video. I'm not sure.
Looks like it, yeah. That's fine. We'll just give her a few seconds. She'll probably just hop on again, and that's fine. Today, we're going to be talking about, the partnership that we have with Drifters. Tam, you're going to be sharing your insights because you actually used to be a guide for Drifters. So I'm very excited to hear about everything that you have. Perhaps maybe we could start with you, and you could tell me what it was like coming out of the role of being a guide from Drifters and now becoming a consultant, and how that partnership has worked for you over the past few years.
So great question, Mishka. Coming off of the road from being an overland guide was it was difficult. It was a difficult transition. Your life on the road it's amazing. You're your own boss. You run at your own pace. You manage your group or whatever it is. And coming off of the road and into an office. So initially, I moved off the road with Drifters and then went into the office to work in reservations at Drifters. And, having that transition phase of going off the road and being your own boss and going into the office where you're working under people and with people and, navigating that role was quite challenging. And then Andrew headhunted me. So Andrew Bolton, the owner of African Overland Tours, he headhunted me like a couple of months. I think I'd worked for Drifters in the reservations office for about 8 or 9 months, and he headhunted me. But by that point, I was still like, when I typed, I was still like A, B, C. So I still had to learn how to type fast. But I mean, having the relationship with Drifters and knowing all the guides and knowing all the management and all the reservations has always like really helped. And I've always tried to nurture those relationships as people change. I mean, because it's been nearly 10 years that I've been off of the road and with AOT. So I've still tried to nurture all of those new relationships and create new, relationship building. Because Drifters is ultimately still my family. Like they're like my first cousin, these days.
I mean, that's a good way to describe it. And obviously, your partnership transcends from working as a guide there, then working as in reservations, then moving into AOT, as you say, being headhunted by Andrew, as he's done with lots of our team. And you keep the relationship going because obviously they know the routes that Drifters has all been on and everything that they've done. So tell me, what about your favorite routes that you've been as a guide? When you were with Drifters, and also maybe your favorite routes now that you are a consultant.
Just repeat that. My favorite groups.
Your favorite routes.
Routes. Okay, yes. Perfect. So, I mean, when I started with Drifters, you start off with the 5-day tours, and then you move to the South African tours, and then once you've honed in and created your expertise within that route or within South Africa, then you move off to like your Cape Town to Victoria Falls routes. And then from there, once you've worked for the company long enough, you'll then be based in Botswana, running Botswana tours. Or in those days, that's how it worked with me. And then you eventually moved your way up to East Africa. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I stayed with Drifters for just under 7 years, basically. So some of it was in the office, most of it was guiding. And my favorite routes, definitely the Botswana tour. Like anything that includes Botswana and Botswana national parks, it's my just my highlight completely. And drifters still includes like the same areas of the national parks that I used to guide through as well. So I value those experiences the most because the wildlife, and oh man, the wildlife was just insane. The stories that I still tell people around, a braai or a barbecue are just, it's endless, the experiences. And then I was living in Namibia and I was based there for nearly a year. And Namibia is just such a special place. Like I went through, like I lost my mother and then I moved to Namibia and it was the most perfect place to just have solitude and like mental sort of space to deal with things. And like Namibia is that, the open-ended, like the landscapes are just so amazing. So for me, it's Botswana first, Namibia, and then East Africa. So I mean, like you ask anyone who's traveled to Africa, they will definitely bring, East Africa up in conversation, and there's a reason for it because it's insane. It's so fantastic, but Botswana is still number one. Number one.
Well, I think Teresa has been hopping on and off. I'm hoping she's managed to join properly now. Teresa, are you there? Doesn't seem like her internet connection is quite stable, which is causing a little bit of a technical difficulty for her. But let's continue on. I'm sure she'll be able to join any moment. She is chatting to me, and she says she's good to change her locations and see if it helps. Just to touch on, you saying Botswana, you just came back from an epic Botswana tour, and we were chatting before the webinar started about how, gosh, you know why Andrew hasn't sent you out in a while. How does that feel for you, like having to transition back from seeing what it was like guiding and then obviously being there as a guest, and now coming back to your desk as a consultant? Do you want to go back?
So it's a little bit different. Like it's challenging because I have a life in Cape Town. I have roots. I have things, that I value in my life. Yeah, but once you're a guide and once you've lived and worked on the road for so long, there's just a part of you that you'll never be able to take back from the road. It's for some people it's a life-changing experience, and for me, like I started guiding when I was 21. It was like it became my lifestyle completely, and even now to this day, years later, we're not going to say how many years later, but years later, I still struggle to adapt to living in the city and, abiding by rules and regulations that, like there are rules and regulations naturally for being on the road and being a guide and, looking after your travelers and being very like aware of your surroundings. But again, you're your own boss. So coming back from just being in the bush, and like I haven't heard certain parrots call in ages, and just like being in Botswana and hearing those parrots fly overhead, it like reawakes something in you that is so difficult to like put back to sleep, and this is why Africa is so addictive, because you can always come back and you'll always go back and it will always just reinvigorate like your senses and your being completely. And for me, it's done exactly that. So it's been quite difficult being back in the office because I want to be in the bush. I want to be walking and seeing those giraffes and having hippos, like, in throwing distance of your campsite. It's different.
I mean, I can imagine how different it can be from being out there in the bush to coming through and having to sit at your desk. But you know what? At least you get to share these moments with your clients and share everything that you've been able to experience and impart that knowledge onto them. I just want to touch base with Teresa. Teresa, are you there? Can you chat to us?
Had a bit of a connection problem there, but I can see and hear you clearly again.
Yay, we are stable. Well, it's good to finally have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm so sorry for all of the difficulties you're facing trying to join. Hopefully now it's smooth sailing after this. Thank you again for joining us. I just want to touch base with you and see how you're doing.
Oh, all good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's an honor to chat to you about, the connection that we have with Drifters and African Overland Tours. I know that you've only been in, your role currently for a couple of months now, but take me through what it's been like transitioning from the bigger group of Tourvest into Drifters and how your role differs now as based to before.
It's really been an amazing journey. I started with the company about 5 years ago. And yeah, I've been in the sports industry for most of my time here. And then Drifters, which is also one of the divisions at Tourvest. I saw the opportunity and it felt like a perfect natural fit for me. And the next step for me. So I've joined the team and it's been amazing learning from, overlanding. I've been used to the sport and events department and side of things. So it's been amazing so far. I absolutely love it.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, when I first started at AOT, I kind of had no idea what overlanding was. No offense to anybody, had no idea what it was. But when I did,
me too.
Right. So, what was it like for you? Have you been on an overland tour yet? And what was that experience like? If you haven't, have you heard from other people who have been? And are you keen to do the same sort of tour?
Absolutely. I haven't been on one just yet. I will be going on one just after Indaba. But most of my colleagues here, they've all done it. And it's the most amazing thing to hear about all of the stories and experiences. I love also chatting to our guides that does these tours all the time. And it's the stories that you hear from them is absolutely magical. Some terrifying, some fun, a whole bunch of it. And I'm very excited to go on my first tour as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I'm converted now. I love overlanding. I would like to do it again.
You should.
Okay, so let's get into, a little bit more of discussing the relationship that we have with Drifters. Obviously, African Overland Tours describes Drifters as a trusted supplier and a valued partner, which you guys are. From your perspectives, Tam and Teresa, from a operator versus a booking consultant, what makes this partnership thrive between the two of us?
And we value our partnership so much. And, we've been working together for many years. And I definitely think what's amazing for our partnership is all of the consultants have such an in-depth and personal knowledge of not only the brand, but also all of the experiences that we offer. Like we spoke earlier with also Tam, even being a guide for Drifters back in the day. So I really think that's key to also the partnership is that whoever is working with this product to really understand it on a personal level, not just even on paper, to really have experienced it and to understand it.
Tam, any insights from you?
I think so. From our experience, open communication has always been key, and we've always been able to have that open branch with Drifters in particular. And for us as consultants, we go the extra mile, especially with African Overland Tours. We go the extra mile. We do know the product so well. And so for us, it's always about making sure that our clients are prepared and making sure that things are going to go the way that they do. And with Drifters, because we have such an open line of communication from the beginning to the end of the experience, it really does help in us knowing that our travelers will have a good time and they will be looked after. And so ultimately, it's just about us feeling confident and knowing that our travelers are perfect. And with Drifters, we know that that's going to be the case. And, if there are any snags along the way, again, we go back to that open communication, and we can then, as the agent versus the operator, we can work together to perfect something or change things. And, that's ultimately why we have such a good relationship.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. Tam has already shared her experiences, how she got into this industry, etc. Teresa, I know you touched base to say that you were in the sports and events industry, but what actually made you take on the opportunity of moving into drifters and taking on the opportunity to work through an overlanding perspective?
I'll actually take it one step back with tourism as a whole, because growing up, my grandmother was actually in the tourism industry, and that has always inspired me to also want to do that. For me, it always looked amazing, and I loved going to work with her, wherever I could, as a child. And it definitely had a big influence on me of wanting to get into tourism. And then when, like I said, when I initially first joined, that was really the stepping stones for me. And then it happened really then by chance with drifters. Within TourVest, we're a very diverse company. It's an integrated tourism company, and there's lots of different opportunities. And I was very fortunate to then to be exposed to the opportunity and have that ability to move over. And so that's really how I got in, and drifters just made sense to me. I loved it. I loved the values that the company stood for. I love the product. I've always loved the product since I've joined the company. I really fell in love with it. So it was a natural next step for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, definitely the generational values of travel. I mean, Tam, I think it was you also who said that. Was it your mom who was in travel?
Yeah, my mom, I mean, this is what it is. Tourism is in your blood, at the end of the day. It's about customer service, and some people know customer service because your parents and your family have been that way inclined, or you don't. My mom owned a travel agency as well. And I had always said, I never want to be a travel agent. And I got into guiding out of pure, it was completely random. And it was because of a guy, obviously. As a young woman, it was because of a guy. I wanted to become a game ranger. I wanted to go work in the bush with this guy. And obviously that didn't work out. And I became a game ranger. And then I had heard about overlanding. And so I Googled how to become an overland guide. And the first company that came up was Drifters. And they in that little write-up, they were like, to become a drifter's guide, you need these qualifications. And I was like, tick, tick, tick. Okay, I've got all of them. Okay, let me send my CV through. And, no sooner had I sent my CV through, I was going through quite an intense 10-day interview process with drifters. So in those days, it was a 10-day interview process. They taught you the vehicles. So you had the 4 vehicles, and then the smaller cruiser that you had to learn. You had to learn the mechanics of them within 5 days, do a mechanics test on those vehicles, and randomly they would choose one of those 5 vehicles that you had to identify the problem. And then if you were able to identify the problem, communicate correctly, then you move to the next step of the interview process. And then we went into the bush and proved our guiding knowledge and how we react and behave with people. So it was quite a thing. And then I was hired, and then the rest is just a better story,
I mean, every good story tends to start with a boy in some cases. So thank you, Tam, for sharing.
But going back to it, yes, mom in tourism. Yeah.
Mom in tourism. Well, thank you guys for sharing. I also want to touch on, drifters offering the off the beaten track type of tours. So Drifters is known for offering raw, immersive African experiences. How do you find a balance between the hidden gems and the big ticket highlights like Etosha or the Serengeti?
So with that, the Drifters product really actually evolved over the years. And I'm sure Tam will also agree with that. It used to be just super off the beaten track, not quite that set itinerary. We've really evolved the product to offering that off the beaten off the beaten track unique experience, but also incorporating those key highlights, because you'll find a lot of travelers, they choose their destination based on maybe some certain highlights. And we still appreciate that, and we want to give them that, especially that's that drawing card for them for choosing that destination. So we really try to get a good balance between the two. We want to have a super unique experience that will give you that once in a lifetime experience. That's also not just that's full of tourists and stuff. If you go to, for an example, if it's just the super tourist places where there's one lion and there's 20 vehicles, we don't want just that. We'll take you to those iconic highlights, but also take you somewhere super unique where you can have this true, authentic experience still. But we also then, like I said, will incorporate both of those aspects to give a unique experience to our guests.
It's perfectly well-rounded. You get a little bit of hidden gems, a little bit of something that you didn't think you were going to experience. And I think that's the best thing about traveling through Africa, Southern and Eastern. You know about all of the great things that people have told you about, the Masai Mara, the Serengeti, the Ngorongoro Crater, etc. But there's a lot of things in between those that you may not be aware of. And I guess, Tam, we can come to you about this, is with your guiding experience, I'm sure that there are some more remote areas or less visited spots that have become extremely memorable for you. Could you share some of that for me?
Great question, Mishka. So some of my more memorable spots when I was guiding, and again, talking about going off the beaten track, and going, with drifters and how you're talking about how it's evolved. When I was guiding, the Namibian tour used to go up to Ipupa Falls, which is where the Himba people essentially originate from. Now, that road was a nightmare to drive on. It was long. The trucks usually broke down along the way somewhere. And this is why, it's been taken out. But, other areas of Namibia that a lot of the companies only started traveling to more recently in the last 2 to 3 years, Drifters was already doing that. They were doing that 10 years ago already. So they were going to those unique locations such as Luderitz and such as, the Nama Brand Desert, which was always overlooked, and it has always been overlooked because the main goal would be to get to Sesriem. But the Nama Brand is like a national park within Namibia that is so unique, and Drifters still stays within the Nama Brand Desert for at least one day. And in that area, you can see giraffes. Your wildlife is it's fantastic. Your game drive at night, you're doing a sunset game drive. And that sunset game drive can leave you seeing very unique desert animals that you're not going to see anywhere else. Some of the animals that I saw in that area, I had never seen anywhere else and have never seen anywhere else since guiding. So it's so unique, and that's why it really changes the game. In East Africa, for instance, going to Lake Elementaita, Lake Naivasha. So Naivasha is a more popular route. But Lake Elementaita was one of the first natural lakes. So you had hippos around the area. It wasn't commercial. So you're not competing with every other overland group and other tourists to have the same wildlife experience that you had at Elementaita. Going into Hell's Gate National Park, there's only 1 or 2 other companies that do it. Drifters offers a game drive cycling, you can go and do optional cycling in Hell's Gate National Park, and it's so unique. They offer a hike up Mount Longonot, which is also in Kenya. Again, hiking up an active volcano in East Africa. Not many people can say that they've done that. But if you would do a Drifters tour, you're going to be able to do that. So it's as Teresa says, it's about combining the touristic spots, the highlights, the peaks of things that people, they want to see it because that's what they know. but then really including those like special little unique things that you're going to talk about for the rest of your life, because you're like, I thought I was just going to Sesrim, and now I've seen polecats and porcupines and, you know, artwolf and just amazing wildlife. So yeah, I appreciate drifters for that reason.
To add a little bit of spice.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Tam and Teresa. That's a really good explanation as to how there's a great balance between bucket list experiences that everybody has and they want to just tick off, and then to add to their bucket list, or maybe just their wanderlust, being able to incorporate something that's completely unique. And I guess that's the best part about overland travel, is that it allows you to do things like this. You're allowed to see things that you may not have expected to see on your usual itinerary. So, or if you had tried to plan it by yourself as well, I guess.
Absolutely.
Going back on, you know, experience of the guides, and, you know, I think Drifters has to have two guides on their tours, and they're proper certified guides.
Yeah.
I just want to chat about that, and what is your philosophy behind your guiding team, and how you nurture such a long-term relationship with them, because lots of your guides stay with you for a long time.
Absolutely, and they do. Our guides are absolutely amazing, and they love what they do. You know, with each tour is there's always a little something. It's always a little something different. Maybe you know, and we also have quite a diverse product range as well. So all of it, you know, they do get experience to lots of different things, and we really make sure that our guides get you know, the ongoing support that they need. They get the support, ongoing training, get exposed to new things as well. And we also listen to our guides, and also the just to make sure we listen to the guides, their feedback. I mean, they are the face of this company. They experience it every single day. So yeah, they get exposed to lots of new things. So it keeps it exciting for them as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Tam, obviously you were that guide. Rain, shine, whatever it was, you had to be that guide. What does it truly mean to have to lead a group through Africa, and what makes a guide unforgettable to travelers?
I think, in my opinion, what makes a guide unforgettable is being honest, authentic, and having empathy. Ultimately, everyone is coming onto this tour like they're coming to Africa. Some of them don't know what it is to be in Africa. They're super nervous. They're like, you know, they don't know really what they're expecting. They've done all the planning. They don't know anything. And these guides nurture any traveler. They look after them like their own. We used to have a shirt at Drifters, and like on the back of it, it said, what is a drifter's guide, like qualifications of a drifter's guide. And it was, you know, a cook, a mother, a father, a psychologist, a game ranger, a professional hunter. Like I can't even remember all of them, but there was like 20 descriptive words or whatever for us, you know, because you've got to fill a role of sort of everything that a person needs, you know. So some people come onto these trips because they need a little bit of space and distance from the real world, and you need a little bit of empathy in that regard, and they need this maternal, or this leader, this figure, you know, because you putting your trust in this person to take you around Africa. Like, I don't know where I'm going, like, you're driving, you know. So there's this trust aspect that's so imperative, and being completely authentic right off the bat and being honest is going to build that trust, and is going to build those relationships and that family dynamic, which is so imperative on a group tour.
Perfect. I mean, you guys are so good at this. Thank you so much. I couldn't have picked two people better to describe the entirety of this whole webinar. So thank you guys so much. And just going back to Drifters as a whole, I actually want to touch on something that Jess had mentioned to me the other day, and it was about the trucks and the facilities of the trucks, and what differentiates the Drifters trucks from maybe other overland operators. Tam and Teresa, if you could both touch on that, please.
No, I mean, all of our vehicles are actually completely custom made by us in our warehouse, which is quite amazing. We have absolutely everything you need on there. From, we pull out our kitchen, we have our fridges, we have the most so much massive luggage space. We have the most amazing forward facing seats and with lots of leg room, and not just because it's comfortable to sit at and stretch your legs out. And I mean, I'm tall and it's absolutely beautiful. My legs can be completely stretched out, but not just for that. It's here you stop at this amazing location with beautiful scenery or wildlife, whatever it is, and everyone wants the photo. And our vehicles are designed in such a way that there is enough space between the seats, so someone else can comfortably come over, take their picture as well. And I mean, our trucks also has, it's floor to ceiling windows as well, massive windows. It's absolutely beautiful. And our trucks are fully equipped with absolutely everything you need. And there's a space for everything, which is the really cool thing about it. I mean, we can have a braai absolutely wherever we want to have a braai, or a potjie. In fact, the other day, I was chatting to one of the guys, and there was a birthday. It was their birthday, and they made him malva pudding because that's his favorite dessert on tour.
Oh.
In the middle of nowhere, they were able to make a malva pudding. I mean, how cool is that?
That is epic. I mean, no tour should be complete without a malva pudding, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, just adding on that, like, really and truly, the drifters trucks, they do stand out completely. Again, just going back to the windows, like, we kid you not when we say it is window from foot to head. So you really do have such fantastic vantage points. But one thing I loved as a guide, and I think it just again, it goes back to how the company thinks and how the company, like the design process and making things easy and efficient. And again, to benefit the guide mostly, it was to create like the pull-out kitchens that you just pull out the big racks and drawers. No other company has that. Like the Drifters Overland trucks are like super glamorous in comparison, and like you would always have people from all the other overland, like in Etosha or at all the campsites that you shared, you would always have people coming from the other trucks going, oh wow, this truck, wow, and I was like, yeah, because space is definitely a big thing. Like if you're tall, like the Drifters truck really does offer a lot. It's kitted, it's designed to only seat 16 people in the back. So, and the size of the vehicle is essentially the same as nearly every other overland truck on the road, but you're only fitting 16 people in there. The fridge is a game changer for anyone that travels with medication, for instance. Like it's a game changer. Even if you say you're not going to have that beer at sunset, like you're going to stop drinking, there's nothing better than an ice cold drink, and coming out of the fridge just makes it better. As opposed to contending with the cooler box and water and melting ice and looking for ice, so it is a game changer. But yeah, those kitchens are game changer, like seriously.
They are.
Yeah.
So you love the kitchens, Tam, because I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, Tam is the resident chef at African Overland Tours and was also a chef before. So I guess my next question is going to be, what was your favorite thing to make on the road?
So, I mean, great question, Mishka. And just to clarify, I like to think I'm a chef, but I'm not a chef, guys. I worked in a kitchen in a 5-star lodge, like before I became a guide. But then I love cooking. I love feeding people. I'm a feeder. Okay. And because I'm such a feeder, like I love going the extra mile for people. And one of the things I definitely like to try and do was bake. So going back to that malva pudding, I used to like bake muffins before people would wake up. So you'd have freshly baked muffins in the morning. I used to make bread, on the fire. I used to, well, like one of my claims to fame was a Black Forest cake in the Okavango Delta in December while it was flooding, in rain, cooking it under a tent in the fire, so that was one of my big claims to fame. But a recipe that a lot of my international travelers still message me about is a peppermint crisp tart, because as a South African,
Classic.
you have to give them a peppermint crisp tart. And it was a success on every tour, like always.
Oh,
It is epic. That is absolutely epic. Thank you so much. And I think you're going to have to share the peppermint tart recipe.
Oh,
absolutely.
I'll put it in the caption.
The problem, Mishka, is that you only get Nestle mint peppermint crisp chocolate in Africa. Okay, you don't get it in the States. You don't, like, if you find it in the UK, wow, you're a lucky person. You've shopped, So yeah, we'll have to modify the recipe for all those international travelers out there.
Probably, but then also this is our chance to convince them to come down and try it for themselves.
Including the marble pudding. It's the best. It's the best.
Thank you guys so much. We actually had a really good review that came in over the past week that complimented one of your guides, or two of your guides, Teresa, Becky and Takalani. And we actually had Takalani on a webinar with us not so long ago. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But I wanted to touch on that review because it was just such a beautiful review. And I wanted to, the person who gave us the review touched on the sheer human kindness that they experience along their way in Africa as something that is completely unbeknown to them. How does hearing feedback like this reflect the deeper purpose behind what we do as consultants, as guides, as people who promote Africa as a destination?
Oh, you know what? It's so amazing to hear that feedback. Becky and Takalani, it's Takalani has actually been with us, for many years, and Becky as well. And it's really amazing hearing that feedback. It really speaks to that, to that deeper purpose behind what we do. And that authentic experiences, amazing connections and memories. And it's beautiful to hear that. And we love to share it with the guides, it's important to also share it, but it's really amazing. And it keeps them motivated. And it's fantastic to actually hear that. I love going through always after a tour, if a guest completes the just about their feedback form. The stories we see on there is absolutely beautiful. I love just reading through it and seeing just the different experiences and stuff that they've had. And we love to share it with the guides. They absolutely love it too.
As soon as I got when I was reading the review, I sent it to Takalani and I was like, look at this amazing review that you guys have had.
That is so cool.
He's like, yes, I know, I'm amazing.
Takalani truly is amazing though. Like, I think he's been with the company for 21 years. Almost years. No, about 20 years.
20 years about now.
It's close on. And like when I was guiding, he was already such a mentor. Like I had arrived and he was already like old news. He was already then like an experienced guide, and he's still guiding with them. And he's like, again, it's like you hear the word kindness, and it reflects, like with Takalani in particular, but with so many of them, again, going back to that sympathetic approach and just understanding and kindness, and like it really is true to all of these guides. And it really does reflect because they've been with the company for so long. Like, when you're a new guide, you're young, you're finding your feet. But with guides that have stayed with the company for 3, 5, 10, 20 years, like, it's not their first radio show. They know exactly how to help you you know, how, like, what to do in every situation. And like, you can't not get a good review from that, you know, because they just are so experienced.
Thank you, ladies. So how do you intentionally foster those powerful how do you intentionally foster working with your clients, whether it's drifters or whether, you know, Tam, you're working directly with the client to pair them with their tour? How do you intentionally foster a good relationship with them and make sure that they can trust you just as much as they can trust their guide on the road? Because once they're on the road, obviously their guide is their go-to. But before that, you are their go-to person for questions, answers, again, mother, father, confident advisor, etc.
Is that, Mishka, is that a question to me?
This is a question to you.
Yeah.
To me?
Yeah, to you.
Okay. I mean, again, like, I'm a very maternal person. Like, you know, some people call me Mama Tam. And there's a reason for that, because I like to look after my travelers. But I'm also incredibly honest, and sometimes that's to my detriment because I am so honest. But so how I foster my relationships with my travelers is being completely honest, but still be nurturing, caring, understanding, and listening to them and understanding exactly what they need. So, you know, regardless of what operator it is that runs a tour, it's about listening to my traveler and really understanding what they need and putting that together, you know, and being completely unbiased to every operator. As a consultant, I'm completely unbiased. And it's just about making sure that my travelers have the best time, and like, they're going to basically tick off those bucket list things that they need for themselves on a tour through Africa.
And that's, I think, also why it's so important, you know, for us as the operator to make sure that we provide all of those tools. You know, we have to give the toolbox to make sure to give them everything that they need to be able to best also look after their guests as well.
Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah, because I mean, we have regular training sessions with all of our operators, so that, you know, as soon as there's a new product in, you guys will tell us, and we obviously need to get training on that so that we can showcase that to the client in the best way possible. And the nice thing about, I think, African Overland Tours and what we sort of do differently is that we give support to our clients from every avenue, whether it's through email, through a phone call, through a video call, through WhatsApp. I mean, you could try to get rid of us, but you probably aren't going to. We're always there, and we're always there to help. And that's also something that was mentioned in the recent review that we got of one of our consultants, Celia, who was on the ball, and she was like, the client actually said she was going away for the weekend, but she left me her phone number in case I needed anything. And I think that is a true testament to what Tam was saying about fostering that customer service that she's seen from when she was a child, which I'm sure, Teresa, you've also seen because your mom was also in travel. That shared customer service that transcends through your entire life and creates who you are as a consultant or as a salesperson.
Absolutely.
Oh, this seems to be going really well, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mishmash.
Tam, back to you. You've experienced it all, from the tents to the lodges, the equipment. How critical is comfort in shaping the overall enjoyment for a trip for a traveler? And how does this support come through in the form of workshops in places like Maun, Windhoek, and Nairobi? How is that made possible?
So I think there's two parts to that question, Mishka. In terms of like fostering comfort for the client, ultimately people need to be really truthful with themselves, you know. And I often say, like, you know, I get the fact that the camping tour is a little bit better priced, but if you're not an experienced camper and if you don't have the right sleeping bag for traveling in winter through Africa, or if you haven't set up tents in 20 years and you really actually stay in accommodation, don't save money, like, rather be comfortable, because overlanding, you know, as we often say, overlanding isn't for everyone. Like, there are long days on the roads. There are, you know, like, you can be spending up to 10 hours in a truck. You know, if you now don't feel like you can camp, but you're taking it because it's better priced, or whatever the case may be, you're probably going to land up feeling very uncomfortable, very tired, fatigued. Your overall experience is going to be it's not going to be as great, because you're going to be remembering the hardship of the tour, which is setting up tents and doing the more difficult things. Okay, but in terms of like with drifters, so going back to the second part of that question, having workshops in places such as Windhoek, in Maun, in Nairobi, because drifters is part of the Tour Vest group, they have, you know, offices and bases and support bases for the guides. Okay, so in areas such as Nairobi and Windhoek, where you are as a guide, you're driving the truck up and you're staying in Windhoek or you're staying in Nairobi for, you know, 3 to 5 months at a time, it's nice to be able to have that support. If something does happen with the vehicle, you know, you're not just having to deal with it alone. You've got the supports of a company and of a base in those cities. And it definitely does help, because you're not going to a backyard mechanic, essentially. You're getting it fixed at the right places, which then also ensures the comfort and the safety of the traveler. Okay. In Botswana, there are a lot of tours that go through Botswana. And so the workshop and the main point in Maun is the Maun Drifters Lodge. And that is the base point. And they've got all the mechanics that they need if the vehicle does break down. So it's, again, for the guide's comfort, it's knowing that, okay, fine, like I can get to this point and I will be helped. I have support. I'm not completely alone. And in my days, we were, as guides, we were driving, guiding, cooking. We were a one-man team. But now it's even better, because Drifters has adopted the 2-man process. So having 2 guides to work and communicate efficiently with clients, as well as get to those workshops and whatever the case is, it really does help. So yeah, so there's 2 aspects of comfort there, Mish.
I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head there. And Teresa, if I could come back to you, obviously there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make this possible. Could you take us through what that's like, especially in remote, difficult terrains?
Absolutely. And Tam has actually also touched a bit on that with, like I said, all our vehicles are custom made by us. So if I tell you the guides know those vehicles like the back of their hand, I mean, I really mean it. And, you know, how Tam was also mentioning earlier about, even during the interview process, about training for, you know, as a mechanic and all of those things. So all of our guides have to make sure that we give them the proper, sufficient training for safety, for knowing the vehicle's mechanic. And also we have a very, very thorough checklist that must be completed prior to every single tour. It must go through a thorough service. And then also that checklist must be signed off by our guide, our mechanic, the support team. So there's really a lot of checks in place to ensure, but also then even though we haven't really had any issues, so to say, on a tour, but if there is ever a breakdown or anything wrong, to make sure that our guides are equipped to be able to fix it right there on the spot. And also, like I said, it also helps with having our offices across Africa as well. And then, of course, the guides also have 24/7 support from us at the office as well. So to make sure that they also have that comfort, and they can pick up the phone at any given time, and there will always be support, no matter where they are. And having 2 guides really helps as well. You know, if there is ever something, you know, we have 2 guides there. The one to make sure you can be with the guest, the other one can fix whatever must be fixed if need be. But it's always number one to make sure to have that preparation in place prior, to ensure we don't have that on the road.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And it creates a real sense of security for the traveler, knowing that, I mean, hopefully lots of them will listen to this and they'll feel comforted by the fact that the guides are there to support you from the beginning right up until the end. and they have the sufficient training and tools needed to make sure that your tour runs smoothly. And what more could you possibly want? You know, you're on the road for many days at a time, and you want to make sure that you are safe, which is a really good thing. And coming back to safety and just understanding people's flexibility and their styles and just what the traveler wants. Teresa, Drifters offers both adventure and traveler tour types. How do you help match travelers to the right style, whether it's a solo person or families or couples?
So we've actually recently redefined our touring styles even further, from just the adventure and the traveler even further, where we now have the pioneer, which is for the super adventurous traveler. They want to be off the beaten track. They want to be in the most remote location, camp under the stars, in those adventure trucks. But then we also have the explorer now, which is just a little, also the super adventure off the beaten track thing, but a little bit more comfort. You know, you will have a bed and proper ablution facilities, you know, so it's still very adventure, but with a little bit of more comfort. And then whereby our traveler is the more, that is a little bit more comfort, that's a bit more, it's in a quantum, it's a smaller group. It's so for the traveler that wants maybe not as many people, a more intimate group, more comfort, have the air-conditioned vehicles and 4 to 5 star properties, and versus in your classic, which is those traditional coach tours with you know, from Joburg to Cape Town with a max from, you know, the coach can take up to 30 people, which is maybe a little bit more affordable as well. So with having more traveler styles, it does make it a bit easier to really put every person on the right group. But I must say, all of our tours are really amazing. All of them are amazing for, you know, for solo people as well. You know, you get to meet people from all over the world. It's fantastic for that. But also we will pair certain type of travelers together. You know, when we realize we have a solo traveler, we'll make sure to put them with a group maybe that has more like-minded solo people on that tour. Yeah, and then of course you also have the option if you want to make it a private tour as well. We also give you that flexibility and option to do that as well. So we really look at what are their needs, because with these traveler tour options, there's really something for every person's budget and needs as well. And we do, like I said, we look at who is already booked on it to even though it's not just the same type of person, we welcome everyone and you get a wide range of people, but we try our best to put like-minded people together.
Tam, I think you wanted to say something?
I was just on the private section, just it's subject to availability, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and also to have a certain amount of people, we can run it as a we can't do it we won't necessarily run a private one for one person, even though we have before. But yeah, like Tam says, also with a certain amount of numbers, we can run it as a private one.
Another thing that I'd also like to touch on in terms of the comfort in, you know, your tour styles or just Drifters product in general is that, as far as I know, a lot of the properties that are included in your itineraries are actually owned by Drifters and run by Drifters. Could you take me through some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we take like our Botswana tour, that one actually that one features our Mound Lodge, where we have our facilities there, and also a lot of the tourist product. But yeah, in Botswana is a good example. That's a very quite the popular one, and for the guests is our Botswana Mound Lodge, which is featured in all of our Botswana product as well.
Awesome.
I think just going back on that, Mishka, it's important to understand that when Drifters was created, it was created by a man named Andy Dodge, and he created it and was sold out TourVest bought it in, I think it was 2010 or 11. Okay. And so what originally happened was the Drifters Tours, Andy bought lodges as well as ran the Overland Drifters Tours. He then sold TourVest, basically bought Drifters, but he then kept the lodges where a lot of the tours still went through. But over the years, what has happened is Drifters is now staying at some of the TourVest properties. So it's again keeping it in the family of TourVest, and moving away from a lot of the Greenfire properties, which was what Andy still owns. So yeah, it's just about the adaptations and the change over the years, and still naturally creating complete comfort as you go.
That's also good, is that you can see that there's a really good history behind all of the itineraries and all of the product that's there. It's trusted and tried, basically.
Absolutely. No, I mean, if we take, before all of our tours, before any itinerary gets created, I mean, that was every single place was chosen because we've personally been there and hand selected every single place that we go to.
Makes such a difference, though. Being able to see the places and add that into your itinerary makes a big difference, because again, you know what you're selling, and knowledge is power. And going back to Tab, you've obviously helped curate lots of experience for over 1,000 travelers. How do you guide your clients into finding the right tour for them based on their budget, their comfort, their goals? Yeah.
Great question, Mishka. So, I mean, just going back on it, though, I have been with African Overland Tours for 9 years now. So over those 9 years, I have learned the product, off by hand. So very often while I'm listening to a traveler talk about what they want and what they're hoping for their trip, very often when I'm listening to that, I will then already have an image in mind of what tours will relate to what they want, So it's about product knowledge, essentially. And again, listening to what your traveler wants, and getting as close to it as possible. At the end of the day, you can't get, my favorite saying, as you know, is like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, you can't have everything. And sometimes you can't have everything. Sometimes you definitely can. It just depends. But with overland tours and with scheduled tours in particular, they are scheduled. Like the routes don't change, the locations don't change, so you can't fit it in unless you have a sneaky conversation with your guide and it's on the way. But I'm not telling anyone, okay? But typically, like, it's again listening, understanding, and meeting halfway with our travelers, and again just being completely honest.
And what makes the Drifters range, for example, an easy group of tours to actually being able to promote?
Again, great question. So what I love the most about Drifters is it's classified as a small group tour, and most of their tours are classified as small group tours. And what that means is you're only traveling with about 16 people on a vehicle and your guides, okay? Spacious vehicles and 16 people, and very often Drifters doesn't necessarily always fill up, so there may be 10 people on a tour, which, although it's up to 16 people, you may still have that smaller group experience. Again, talking about off the beaten track locations, you get in everything and more, okay? It's a unique selling point in that regard. Great guides. Again, like, I have peace of mind in sending my travelers on a Drifters tour because I know that the guides are going to teach them, educate them, and look after them. Okay. So yeah, like, the Drifters trucks are also fantastic. So I feel comfortable with it. It's all unique selling points, essentially. Like, you can look at one tour and the other, and one may be slightly more expensive than the other. But when you start really looking at the nitty-gritty of it all, Drifters does stand out for me.
Teresa is probably so happy with everything you're saying right now.
100%.
All the truth.
Loving it. Oh, and it's all, and it's amazing hearing that.
Thank you. Well, I just want to touch on a few more questions before we close off. Guests often describe these tours as life-changing and soul-renewing. Why do you think that overlanding has such a deep, lasting impact on people? And this could be answered by both of you.
Tam, I'm going to let you go first on this one from your actual experience of doing it before I jump in there.
I mean, I think ultimately it takes you back to basics. You know, it takes you back down to a humble beginning, essentially. You've seen some of the most incredible things that you cannot fathom. You can watch National Geographic all day, every weekend, you know, and you can get those, you know, those insane David Attenborough moments of wildlife. But to be on the road, to be on the open road through Africa, it does change you. It humbles you. You're going through areas that are not first world. They're not built up. You are going through areas where you do not have a phone. Your vice is not technology. You are giving up so much of like the busyness of your life to come to Africa and to do a trip. And for me, like overlanding in particular resonates most because if you're doing an accommodated tour, you're staying in good accommodation, but it's still of humble beginnings, you know, it's still basic. Like you've got great bathrooms, you've got great bedrooms. Do you have internet every day? No, you don't. Like your days are filled with experiences that, again, like the stories will last you a lifetime. Even if you do a 7-day trip, it will last you a lifetime. And it just changes your mind. It brings you back down. It calms you down. And it's just like, cool, great. This is what life can be. And so when you get home, you're like, cool, great. This is what life can be. And it changes you slightly, as I say.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, you come together, people from all over the world with something common, you know, with something that they have in common. You put them together, and guess the amount of time you spend. It's, you know, whenever we put up when you put up your tent, you know, oftentimes you find first night everyone puts their tents all over. Then you might hear the hyenas, and it's funny how quickly people will maybe want to start moving a bit closer, and they really get to bond, and they form friendships on these tours. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
The impact that it actually has on them.
It's funny you say that. I was actually just telling Mishka just before we started the webinar about like travelers of mine that, you know, they booked a year in advance. They came on the tour and they made friends on tour that they've done like 2 trips around the world now with, and then they'll be coming back to Africa next year. But it's just like, it's, as you say, it's putting people together that wouldn't necessarily come together to create this family bond, you know. It's amazing.
In the moment you two mentioned, you know, that it's different people coming together with one purpose or like one goal, I immediately thought that the one thing that they all have in common is their curiosity, the curiosity to explore, to see something different, to see something that whether you've come to Africa once or 10 times, no day is the same. And I think that is what makes it extremely special. Your days, the sunrise is different every day. The sunset is sometimes even better than the last. And the wildlife that you're going to experience, the cultures that you're going to experience, it's all a common thread among each of those travelers, that they are looking for something that they are not going to see in their everyday lives. And it's something that Andrew always says about this sort of travel. It allows you to step outside of your everyday life. Yeah, I think that's what's also so transformative.
Yes.
My final question of the day, after all of our technical difficulties, if someone was considering their first overland trip, especially solo travelers, what's your one piece of advice that you would give?
I would say first, the number one, to be open. Be open-minded and to new experiences. Like you say, you're going to experience something that you have definitely never experienced before. be open-minded and have fun. Enjoy it. Take it and live in the moment. You know, it's amazing whenever you get that chance maybe to be without internet, or, you know, take it. Enjoy it. Just live. Have fun.
I mean, I would love to add on to that, but I was also going to say open-mindedness, you know, like it's so imperative, you know, again, going back to, it's not normal life, like things happen, like TIA, this is Africa, you know, and so if you come expecting to leave at exactly 6 a.m. in the morning and someone is running late and you're going to get angry about it, you're not living in that moment, you're not giving, like, you need to make time and space for just enjoying everything. So look up, enjoy that sun, find that mayor's parrot flying overhead that I was talking about earlier. Like, there are so many things that are so different. So if you are open-minded and you don't sweat the small stuff, like, you're gonna have an amazing time. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's an adventure.
It is.
And this is Africa. That's going to be the tagline. TIA.
Hey.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much. With our
Thank
African
you.
internet, we made it. We've got to the finish line. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of our attendees who have been with us today. I really appreciate it. The recording will be available in a couple of hours. And again, any closing thoughts from you, Tam, Teresa, anything you'd like to end off with?
Don't be afraid. Just come.
Do it. Absolutely do it. You know what? It's an amazing experience, and I will recommend it to everyone. You have to try it.
To try it. My therapist used to say to me when there was things that I didn't like to do, she used to say, like Nike, just do it. So there you go. That is what we're giving the end of this webinar as. Like Nike, just do it. Book the tour. Let's get going.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing day. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Teresa.
Bye.